And that's why I'm telling you all that that's so incredibly dangerous, to be conservative, to be fundamentalist. People think that being unable to take in new information, being unable to accept science and technology and the growth that the future gives us, like new and different times gives us, people feel a sense of safety in staying in the ways of their grandparents and their parents and even their own maybe several decades of life. But the truth is that you become the dinosaur that gets stuck in the tar pit, and you die because you were stuck in that tar pit. You can't get food, you can't get the water you need, and so you die. And that's what conservatism does to you. So you can stick with it and you can continue on, but conservatism will be the death nail in your coffin. You've got to be able to grow and change with life and to adapt, to be not just neurally dexterous, plastic, but truly you have to use the sponge analogy and apply that to yourself, because in the end you will find that if you're unable to take in new information and to change and to adapt, and to be different from your parents and to be willing to engage with the information and the revelations of your time, you're not going to survive it. Some people will, and they'll convince you to get on board, right? Because their inability to change or to take in new information has served them. But it could kill you.
Yeah, because
it's why you have so many people refusing to be awake and aware of the damage that Donald Trump has done. Man is he's relentlessly crooked. And people are still trying to give him money to buy him out of his crookedness, to pay off his litigation fees. And they're willing to do it because they hold on to the false hope that they can be just as mediocre and crooked and still do well in life. But the problem is they become like the dinosaur in the tar pit and they die because they're stuck. So again, your ability to experience and to perceive the fullness of reality is directly connected to your ability to be conscious of it. If you refuse to be conscious of the fullness of reality, and you want to be like that dinosaur in that tar pit or those people in the proverbial cave staring at the shadows on the wall, you can stay there. And you will be there for all of the rest of your short life as you hurry up and die. And short, quite frankly, whether you are 80 or 90. Because the fullness of life that you're able to take in, it doesn't matter how long you loop through your conservatism and you loop through the limited amount of perception that you have of reality, and you just continue to do that, you're still suffering from a kind of stasis for 80 years, right? So you can do that for 80 years, or you can live, perceive, receive the fullness of reality and be consciousness of it, and be a critical thinker, and to be a person who has neural longevity, or not. And you can tell yourself, well, I'm 80 years old and this has always worked for me, and this will work for you, so you just need to be a conservative because this is the way I made it in the world. When you're the exception, that's what people need to grasp. That's the message. You need to stop looking at these people who are the exception. There aren't going to be a lot of Trumps. There's one Trump. And you can already see the financial stability of his family. For some of them, is crumbling. And those people around him who've been taking the rap for him their whole lives and doing his dirty work, it's been crumbling. People have been going to jail. People will still yet go to jail. There will still yet be things that are uncovered that people are going to be responsible for. So that's why I encourage you to stop it. Stop it. Stop it. So that you can be released to live and not stuck in that tar pit with everybody else. Same thing with the environment. You want to keep going because, you want to help billionaires make more money through oppressing people, poisoning your habitat? Keep going. It'll be perpetually on fire and it'll be too late. And that imaginary being in your mind that's going to save you from the apocalypse will not be there. It will not be there. Most people don't realize that the things that they worship are really largely just in their minds. Whether you're thinking about the Christian God, where each person has their concept of whether they buy into a dogma that a group of them accept. In addition to that, they also, in their own level of belief, have taken to believing that their God is and is not a thing. And when they go through that process of God formation, that God who they will worship and the God who they believe exists, they create a God. And they create an imaginary being, an imaginary version of something that may or may not exist, and they create it. And it exists as an egregore. It exists as a product of their imagination, and it truly, their faith forms the substance of that God in its very existence. And that God does exist by faith, but not in reality. That's why, and I'm not arguing whether there is a God or there is not a God. I'm an intuitive. There are things that exist that y'all don't even have concept of, and would be unwilling to know about. Y'all are worried about numbers, 111s and 222s and all this other crap that y'all are doing, which I'm not saying that's not helpful to people. But what I'm saying is that there is a level of reality and the fullness of it that the human race has to begin to adjust itself to accept. Because if it does not, it is going to be missing a key functioning factor of its future. That's why I encourage people to embrace the future and to sit in the discomfort of trying to stretch the bounds of their minds. Because humans really have to come up out of this stage of existence in which they don't have a microscope. They don't have a way of detecting the fullness of reality. And it only is a thing that people with certain sensory organs can. Because see, I wear glasses, so the fact that I have trouble seeing at a distance is fixed, right? You remember Hellboy? Remember that movie where he couldn't see, and there were things that existed in his environment and were causing him danger, so he just had his special glasses on, and he flipped down the different monocles or glasses, lenses, and it helped him to see that there was something there that was going to hurt him, some kind of being, and it was posing a danger, but you couldn't see it. Because his eyesight, even him being half this and half that, and from a different dimension, it still had a limited depth of perception. And that's why I encourage you all, like, we as human beings have to begin to stretch ourselves to create the microscopes that are needed to see the things, the lenses to see and perceive the things that truly exist. So we can stop questioning whether or not there are extra-dimensional, extraterrestrial, because all that mess, there's a lot of stuff that exists that y'all don't realize that's been here on Earth. You just lack the ability to perceive and to interact. There's a lot going on, but you guys can stay on Spirit Talk, playing around with man-made concepts and things that they create to get more money out of you. You can stay in religious systems that were created to get more money out of you, oppress you, to keep you in line and keep you conservative, because that's literally what goes on. If your religious system involves keeping you in a fixed mindset, it's culty, and it doesn't allow you to think outside of the bounds of what they say is reality, you are in a trap. Because you have to really have faith that they're not lying, and that what they're saying isn't going to put you in the position of that dinosaur in the tar pit. But I'm gonna digress, because I think this one's going long. But that's why I'm trying to teach you all. Conservatism is not good for you. Religious systems that keep you neurally cemented, inflexible, unyieldingly unlearning, inability unable to take in new information and adjust and learn and change. I mean, the very concept of Christianity is an adjustment. It is a deconstruction, an adjustment, and a reconstruction. That's why I get so tripped out by Christians who don't get that, and they practice a kind of Christianity that makes them neurally rigid, instead of being a product of something that would have interacted with the universal spirit that guides us all. Because that kind of combo requires somebody who's a sponge, somebody who can take in new information that is totally contradictory to what they have believed for decades, and then they got to shift and change. But if you're looking at a person who calls themselves a Christian who has the Holy Spirit and they call themselves a conservative, be concerned. Be concerned. And they're a fundamentalist, and they say that they're dealing with a piece of ancient technology that gives you modern and future, a level of understanding that most humans are unable to take in, because that ancient technology is so advanced that it feels like future to the monkey brain of a human. But that is all for a different video.